When this video drops, it should be November, which means it's National Interloping Month. Looks like I was a little bit late, and I'm gonna celebrate it the only way that I know how, by making yet another long-form analysis video on the Interloper series. I know it's kind of a meme that I always make Interloper videos, but you guys really seem to enjoy this web series as much as I do, and I always am down to talk about Interloper. But first things first, to those of you who are first-time watchers, this video is missing crucial context for the first 8 episodes of Interloper. I released a video discussing that a couple months ago. So get cozy up on the couch, grab a cup of orange juice, and try not to interlope all over the screen because here we go! Well folks, it looks like Christmas season just wrapped up, which means only one thing. It means your family has just given you fat wads of cash, and you have no idea what to do with it. You must have so much money lying around, it takes up all of your space, clogs up all of your pipes, and you need to find a way to get rid of its stat. Well, I have just the thing for you thanks to today's sponsor, Manco Store. Manco Store is a marketplace for skins from all of your favorite Valve games. Team Fortress 2, Counter-Strike 2, and to the 12 of the people watching this who play it, even Dota 2. Mr. Umbrella Man, your style is dated and ugly, and you look hideous. I think that you're long overdue for a fashion makeover. Wow, now you're finally beautiful, thanks to Manco Store. And Manco Store isn't just for spending cash either. You can make fat wads of cash by selling all of your unwanted skins for real money that you can use to spend on Family Guy box set DVDs, cigarettes, or whatever the hell people use money for. So get yourself over to Manco Store now using my link in the pinned description and get yourself some cool ass skins. And if you don't, my next video will be me dumping a bucket of toxic sludge over my head till my skin melts off. And believe me, you don't want to see that. So go to Manco Store. Thanks for sponsoring the video. Now, let's dive back into Interloper. Let's start right where we left off after Interloper 8 in the last video. I made a lot of theories in that episode, and most of what I said still holds up. So, here's what we know. The Eida Machinima channel was ran by 2 people. Eida, also known as Jan, and J-Man, known as Johan. Together, they worked to investigate the Interloper mystery until Eida broke up with his digital hostage ghost girlfriend. F-Sky, formerly known as Fortu, is the company behind much of the Interloper mystery, and they've become well aware of Anomi's investigation into the Interloper mystery. And Anomi has joined a collective called Project Skybox, a mysterious group investigating the Interloper mystery that knows a lot more than they're letting on. In the last episode, we received the Tuesday Manifest, a massive collection of Interloper demos and maps generated during an Interloper session, including generations for SFM, something we haven't seen before. In fact, as it turns out, the DM editor that's been an integral part of the series is actually an earlier build or branch of Source Filmmaker. And near the end of the last demo, Anomi unknowingly captures an entity inside of a model in a source mod he called Project Skybox. Anomi's capture of this entity was performed in the exact same way Eida did years prior. And with all of this knowledge in mind, we're ready to dive into Interloper 9, which starts with the CSGO Type 5 demo generated during the Tuesday Manifest. In my last video, I referred to this demo as Office Head, although that wasn't the official name for it. Now in the series, Anamide has adopted my unofficial name as the canon name for this Type 5 demo, which means I have successfully canonized myself in the Interloper universe. We now have some new information about this demo's generation that completely changes how we view it. During the time this demo was playing in Counter-Strike, Source Filmmaker was completely frozen. Why? Because it was outputting a strange new file onto Anomi's computer. And what exactly was this strange file? An image depicting the very moment the counter-terrorist was caught by the large head in Office Head. So what exactly does this mean, and why is it so special? First things first, during the Tuesday incident, 3 Type 5 demos were generated. Office Head, the Half-Life 2 Episode 2 Beach demo, now referred to as Hi Guy, and the final Bizarre TF2 demo, now referred to as Gravel Grave. Of all of these Type 5 demos, Office Head was the only one to freeze SFM and produce an image. For a while now, we've known that the DM editor is a branch of Source Filmmaker. We know this because of the immense visual similarities and because the DM editor was also referred to as Box Rocket, an early name for SFM. It makes sense that when a dynamic NPC appears, it would trigger a reaction from SFM, the tool for handling dynamic NPCs. However, what makes this really odd is that Office Head is the only Type 5 demo to trigger a reaction. Why? A theory I hold to is that this image is the head entity trying to communicate. In fact, communication seems to be a big theme in recent Interloper episodes. Let me explain. The Tuesday incident was streamed live, and demos were generated across games simultaneously, which means we can see when events overlap. 2 events that happened concurrently were Hi Guy and Office Head. By playing them side by side as they happened, we can see some events synchronize. The first synchronization happens when the Hi Guy demo loads. As it does, the CT in Office Head begins falling through the floor, and watch what happens every time Hi Guy says hi.
Hi. Hi. Hi. Hi. Hi. Hi. Hi. Hi.
That's right, every time Hi Guy says hi, the Office Head responds with a bell sound. It feels as though these 2 demos are somehow connected and the entities in each demo are communicating with each other across games through sound. And watch what happens at the very end of Office Head. The black head confronts the CT by saying hello, which leads me back to the SFM render, and why Office Head is the only Type 5 demo to interact with SFM like this. Perhaps it's because this is another way the Blackhead is trying to communicate. Now, maybe this communication I'm theorizing about is all coincidence. However, as we delve further into Interloper, I believe we'll see many more instances that support my claim that Interloper entities can communicate across games using sound. For Anomi, investigating the sound connection further is going to be difficult. If you remember from the Tuesday incident livestream, while all the other games were generating Interloper demos, Portal RTX, the tool by which Anomi and Project Skybox are able to research the Interloper commands, had a mysterious brief spike in activity, but suddenly reverted back to the normal base game with no Interloper functionality. We can only theorize as to what Portal RTX was up to, as the bitrate of the video is so low it makes it impossible to decipher. If I had to guess, maybe F-Sky caught on to what Anomi was doing and found a way to sabotage Portal RTX, just like how it's heavily implied they sabotaged Anomi's internet during episode 4. Nonetheless, with Portal RTX out of the picture, it means that researching the Interloper mystery has essentially hit a brick wall. That is, except the curious anomaly in Project Skybox. Anamade and the Project Skybox team named it the Sky Ghost. So what exactly is the Sky Ghost? In episode 8 of Eida Machinima's ghost hunting series, he details the steps he took to capture an entity just like the Sky Ghost. Establish a connection with the entity and close it off, leaving the entity trapped. This is exactly what happened with the Sky Ghost. A connection was opened during the demo generation and closed when Portal RTX reverted. Later, we'd see Eida's ghost spell its own name using letters. Olive. Being able to spell and decipher language means that this entity is very intelligent. And within the files of the Tuesday manifest, we see that the name of the file for the Umbrella Man's model is Olive. Between the intelligence and the name that they share, I'm certain that within the body of this model is the trapped essence of the Umbrella Man, like an AI possession. So how does one even begin to investigate an anomaly like the Sky Ghost? Project Skybox has an idea. Lucy, a member of Project Skybox, reaches out to Anomi, frantically messaging him not to shut down his game. This is because the Sky Ghost anomaly is tied to the current runtime of the Project Skybox source mod. Turning off the game, updating the game, a power outage, rebooting the game, anything happens to this current runtime of the game, the Sky Ghost disappears, and with it, all hopes of investigating the Interloper mystery. So Project Skybox has a vested interest in keeping the Umbrella Man's essence trapped within this model. Let me remind you that many times Project Skybox has obfuscated the truth and omitted key details in the investigation. They aren't exactly as trustworthy as they present themselves, and I believe that their interest in Anomi's Sky Ghost goes beyond wanting to understand the Interloper mystery. However, there's one problem holding back Anomi from investigating the Sky Ghost. They've become completely unresponsive. So much so that Anomi and the Project Skybox collective are unsure of whether or not it's even still in there. In Eida's investigation, he showed it was possible for a Sky Ghost type entity to breach containment and cause silly antics in source games. So who's to say the same thing hasn't happened here? But it's important to remember what we're dealing with here isn't some sort of mindless drone like a crasher or your average Twitter user. What we're dealing with here is something with intelligence, like a Reddit mod. Umbrella Men have shown time and time again to be intelligent by stalking prey, setting traps, and understanding and comprehending language. This thing is capable of putting on an act. The Sky Ghost's inactivity is quite possibly a veneer the Umbrella Man is using to feign ignorance. It wants to convince the Project Skybox collective that it's not actually a spooky anomaly in the hopes that they shut down the game runtime and in turn, set the entity free. So essentially what we have here is some sort of weird game of wits. Can Project Skybox crack the veneer and prove the entity is still within Lucy? And can the entity stall out Project Skybox long enough that they get bored and move on? Fortunately for Anomi, he has a guide to work from, Eida's archive channel. During Eida's experimentation with the Mona, he discovered something that provokes behavior in a trapped Umbrella Man, hurting them. In episode 8 of his ghost hunting series, Eida is able to build a container in the form of a cube to trap the entity, and he covers the entire map with a hurt trigger that constantly damages the entity inside. He then leaves the entity trapped in these conditions for days on end. At this point in the series, we know very well that these entities are very much sentient and capable of emotion. So I find it very disturbing imagining the pure raw agony that entity must have felt. Completely alone, in the dark, in constant pain from the hurt trigger for endless days. This torture works at breaking the Mona and provokes this reaction. Keep this in mind, specifically the twitching and seemingly random noises. If Anomi can recreate these conditions, he can provoke a reaction out of the Sky Ghost. That is, unless the Sky Ghost can stop it first.
Huh? Wait, what the hell is this? Did we put an error here? Oh. Oh. No. I saw you.
While Anomi is inactive, the Sky Ghost spawns an error sign before realizing Anomi is keeping tabs on them, which forces them back to their inactive state. We've seen before that Umbrella Men have the ability to spawn objects and manipulate the world around them, such as the radio they spawn in High Guy, and it looks like they can retain at least some sort of that ability while trapped in a model. Unfortunately, the model is an error, so we don't know exactly what it is. Looking back to Eida's goodbye video, we see that an error sign appears with the ability to kill entities. This error sign is the delete button in the DM editor. Before, I assumed this error sign to be an Umbrella Man, but perhaps there's a bit more to it than that. Anomi has two ideas on how to handle the Sky Ghost. The first is importing nearly every model from every source game into the Project Skybox mod, so if the Sky Ghost spawns a new object, they'll most likely know what it is. Now, the map is strewn about with random models from various games, including two red T-posing heavies. They resemble none other than the two heavies shown in the Fortress demo from Interloper 1, such iconic fan favorite characters. The second idea Anomi has is recreating Eida's torture method. However, instead of a hurt trigger that envelops the entire map, he instead elects to drown the entity in water. The entire Interloper series has always had a fascination with drowning. In the very first episode, we saw Spooky Coast, a Type 5 demo where the POV is shoved into water and drowned by the Umbrella Man, or the countless times we've heard dynamic NPCs make drowning noises. So it appears us humans have something in common with these strange digital life forms. We both think drowning kind of sucks. So Anomi leaves the Sky Ghost to drown for 11 days, until he's finally able to provoke a reaction. A week and a half after dropping the Sky Ghost into the water, Anomi is delving into the contents of the Tuesday Manifest, specifically a strange Type 2 demo where the POV plays noise over the in-game voice chat.
4, 3, 2, 1.
This demo actually elicits a reaction from the Sky Ghost.
Did you hear that? No, what is that? Huh?
The Sky Ghost plays the same song in response to the Type 2 Team Fortress 2 demo, communication across source games using sound, just like the communication we saw between Office Head and Hi Guy. So, if this is the Sky Ghost transmitting a message, what exactly is that message? To start breaking it down, let's go back to the Misty Type 5 demo. In this demo, we saw a civilian NPC being used as an alarm to trigger Umbrella Men to a dynamic NPC's presence. My theory is that much like how the Cheeple in Misty was an alarm, this message the Sky Ghost is playing is a distress signal. We saw very similar behavior in Eida's ghost hunting series as well. We can even see the Sky Ghost moving their body around in a motion that resembles pain, or dancing. Whether the Sky Ghost is writhing in pain or busting a groove is up to you. However, that's not all, as during the sequence there's a blink and you'll miss it moment that adds another layer of mystery.
All the time.
That is not a normal heavy. What the hell is that thing? Going back to the Fortress Type 5 demo, we saw the same heavy entities stalk a Scout dynamic NPC. Before, I had assumed that these were Crashers, considering they've also taken the form of opposing TF2 characters. But I've noticed something in this clip that might suggest otherwise. Did you hear that? It's the same type of wind chime sound that plays every time an Umbrella Man is present. In the entire series, these sounds have only played in the presence of an Umbrella Man. So what if this heavy model is a form of disguise for an Umbrella Man? Or even a gooner for the Umbrella Man? Meant to say goon. A henchman for the Umbrella Man. This heavy entity could actually be responding to the distress signal from the Sky Ghost. Judging by the look on the heavy's face, looks like its eyes are set on Anomi. We'll see exactly what the heavy is planning soon. So let's hop on over to Interloper A. Starting this video, it appears that Anomi has abandoned the old numerical naming structure of the Interloper series, instead opting for a new letter system. Right now, we currently have parts A and B, and there's a lot of juicy information to cover here, so let's just dive right in. Now that the mask has slipped and the Sky Ghost has showed their true colors, they've become much more active, moving and contorting its body around in strange ways, very reminiscent of Eida's Mona, and playing sound effects seemingly at random.
Playing sounds? Yeah, like that. Playing sounds?
Anomi makes a very important observation about the Sky Ghost as well.
Oh, and this. Yeah, so she spawned this before I activated her, and I think I have an idea why. I think she's watching the demos. Yeah, like, watching them with me.
The Sky Ghost is capable of viewing demos played in other Source games while still trapped in Project Skybox. And it seems the two heavies it spawned in the previous episode were in reaction to watching the Fortress Type 5 demo. There's very interesting ramifications of this and ways to explore it going further into the episode, but before that, Anomi presents the strange pattern of behavior of the Sky Ghost. In the last episode, the Sky Ghost's plan was to act stupid, but after being caught in the water, it seems to have switched to a new approach. Now, the Sky Ghost goes through a cycle of activity made up of 4 distinct phases. The first step of the Sky Ghost cycle is the dormant phase. This behavior should look really familiar because it's all the Sky Ghost has been doing up till this point. This phase isn't all that exciting. However, things get interesting when you get to phase 2, teleporting. Once every 2 to 3 days, the Sky Ghost teleports to a new place on the map. This kind of raises the question, if the Sky Ghost is capable of movement via teleporting, then why didn't they escape the water when they were drowning for days by simply leaving the water? Doesn't really make sense. That is, unless you subscribe to my distress signal theory, because that would explain why they were trapped in the water. They had to keep up their act until something could come and help them. And speaking of communication, in step 3, the Sky Ghost will play 3 random sound effects.
Percent.
The way I interpret it, this is the Sky Ghost's version of an SOS signal, still trying to reach out for help. Considering the heavy model is now targeting Anomi, it's likely it won't take long for that help to arrive. And the final strangest phase of the Sky Ghost cycle is the slink phase, where the Sky Ghost will shrink itself into a tiny little meatball for roughly 2 minutes before going back to normal, resetting the cycle back to the dormant phase. However, that is not all the Sky Ghost is capable of. On very rare occasions, the Sky Ghost will break the cycle and exhibit new strange, unseen behaviors. In one instance recorded by Anomi, this happens.
Oh, wait, hold on. I think it made a sound. What? What? Animating? Oh. What? What even is this?
The Sky Ghost spawns in a Combine model from Half-Life 2 before glitching out. We've already seen that the Sky Ghost has the capability of spawning in models, but keep this specific Combine model in the back of your mind, because it'll come back later in a very strange way. In another odd instance, the Sky Ghost tracks Anomi, seemingly observing him.
I can't seem to make it go away either. It's been doing this for like 10 minutes too. Oh. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go?
Before returning to the dormant phase. And in the final strange occurrence recorded by Anomi, the Sky Ghost teleports away and plays a song from the Half-Life soundtrack before stopping the song abruptly and immediately going back to its original position. It'd be very remiss of me if I also didn't bring up how this interaction plays out similar to the High Guy demo. In that demo, the Umbrella Man spawns in a radio for the dynamic NPC while playing music to observe its behavior. In that demo, the High Guy begins dancing, which triggers the Umbrella Man into capturing the NPC. The Sky Ghost playing music could be its way of observing Anomi. Maybe the Sky Ghost is playing music to see if Anomi can resist the allure of a funky groove, and after failing to provoke a reaction, gives up and goes back to normal. Just like how Anomi is poking and prodding at the Sky Ghost to provoke it and study it, it appears the Sky Ghost is trying to do the same thing. In an attempt to understand how the Sky Ghost operates, Anomi dives into past demos. Anomi shows off a discovery in one of the SFM generations pointed out to him by members of his Discord. It's something I completely missed in my investigation, and I feel as though my reputation as an interloper scholar is forever tarnished. The discovery comes from Data 35, the demo that shows one of Anomi's void-traversing drones assembling from props around the map. There's another layer to this demo I never even noticed. Hidden within the miscellaneous bin folder is another SFM session, this time showing the Mountain Lab SFM tutorial. This clip is from an official tutorial created by Valve Software to teach users how to animate using Source Filmmaker. To animators who use the program, it should be instantly recognizable. But it's not for me because I refuse to learn how to use this caveman technology. If you have the memory of an elephant or have been religiously studying Interloper for months like I have, you may have immediately connected this to one of the TF2 demos from part 4, showing the tutorial through the eyes of the soldier. Is the implication of this demo that all Interloper demos originate from SFM, otherwise known as the DM editor? And if demos originate from the DM editor, and the Umbrella Man originates from the DM editor, then the two are inseparably linked. Now armed with the knowledge that there's more to demo files that meets the eye, Anomi goes back to a very familiar place we've all become accustomed to, the Fortress Type 5 demo map. This place feels like home to me now. Anomi focuses on another strange enigma of the Interloper demos: cube maps. At many different points in this series, we see games build cube maps before crashing. In the Source engine, cube maps are 2D renders of the game world that are generated and used as a texture for reflections. You can see this process quite well in TF2 by carrying around a reflective weapon, and you can see cube maps change in real time. So, when the game builds cube maps, what it's doing is generating these 2D textures, which are what you see in the corner. Cube maps have always been a strange quirk of the Interloper commands and have even hidden important information before, but now Anomi wants to see if he can utilize them like a tool. Anomi begins a series of experiments with cube maps, trying to use them during demo playbacks, in the Project Skybox source mod, in conjunction with SFM, but nothing fruitful ever happens. That is, until Anomi concocts a very convoluted formula that is actually able to produce results. Check this out. In order to produce results, you need to have Project Skybox, a source game, and SFM opened on a blank project. The first step is to play a demo of your choice across any source game. Then, you need to go back to Project Skybox and begin to build cube maps, but only when the Sky Ghost is in the slink phase. Then, you need to go to SFM and render out a blank movie, which will produce a video file I think you'll find very interesting. Take a look. Anomi calls it a cube map exam, and let's break it down. The short clip itself shows cube maps building like normal, before transitioning into this weird distorted clip of Father Grigori acting strangely and wildly shaking at the end. The first big question that comes to mind after watching this clip is what exactly is that Father Grigori model? So let's answer that. Cube map exams are only able to be performed under very specific circumstances, and one of the prerequisites required is that the Sky Ghost is in the slink phase of the cycle. If step 3 of the cycle is the Sky Ghost sending out a signal for help, then perhaps the slink phase that follows directly after is the Sky Ghost trying to receive a signal. Like someone stranded in the wilderness trying to use a radio for help. And in these moments, where Anomi starts a cube map exam, the Sky Ghost is able to receive that signal and inhabit the game world briefly and interfere with it. Before, it was established that the Sky Ghost can watch demos and understand them, but now Anomi is unknowingly giving them the chance to wander in these different worlds, if only for a moment. Anomi is able to recreate the cube map process a couple more times as well, something that is very time consuming considering the slink phase only happens once every 2 to 3 days. The second successful cube map exam is taken using a TF2 demo from the Tuesday Manifest and shows some sort of weird, strange soldier model waddling around like a freakish flesh penguin. If it didn't look so friggin' weird, I might be tempted to call it endearing. After the second successful cube map exam, Anomi tries an interesting experiment. Are cube map exams compatible with Type 5 demos? Yes.
It's funny, this is like exactly as I remember it. There it is.
Now, this demo may seem unique in the fact that it lacks a strange distorted character like the other ones did. However, take a closer look. For only a handful of frames, you can see the heavy model lunge towards the camera, which means in the cube map exam, that's likely the Sky Ghost. The final part of the video sees Anomi perform another experiment with the Sky Ghost. A lot of my analysis so far is centered on interloper entities using sound to communicate, and to some extent Anomi is aware of this connection as well. Using console commands, Anomi begins to play different sounds to see if it elicits a reaction from the Sky Ghost.
Oh, I have a really funny idea. How about the classic? This one. Oh. Oh. Okay. No way. Where'd it go?
This guy really just said, "I have a funny idea," and then played the sound effect equivalent of a death threat. Despite the Sky Ghost itself likely being an Umbrella Man, they are inhabiting a foreign body, and should an Umbrella Man deem they are unnatural, they would not hesitate to end them. It's a story we've seen play out before with the Mona. So it makes sense that the Sky Ghost immediately runs away in fear. Anomi has just set off the fight or flight alarm of every entity in the server, and as we know, Anomi and the Sky Ghost aren't alone here. There's an entity that's been hiding in the shadows, secretly planning behind the scenes this whole time, and now they've been forced to act. It's heavy weapons! That's my heavy impression, by the way. It appears as though there's been even more entities creeping their way into the Project Skybox source mod, like an infestation. In the doorway of the cathedral, you can see the model of a demo man, something that's been there for quite a while now. However, after Anomi uses the chime sound effect, shortly after, they move out of the way, almost as if it knows what's about to happen. Now alone in the silence of the map, Anomi is left to wander around and look for the Sky Ghost. Moving past the heavy models, you can notice that one of them turns their head away, as if wanting to avoid eye contact to raise suspicion. Eventually, Anomi works their way back into the cathedral, where this happens.
Oh. What? Hold on, did that move? What? Oh, I'm still moving. Oh, no. What? No. I'm not controlling that.
The Heavy sets up an ambush on Anomi, killing him instantly and stealing the Fizz gun, something that shouldn't even be possible as the Project Skybox mod creators disabled death in the mod. However, this Heavy entity is able to transcend the rules of the game itself. In an attempt to regain control of the situation, Anomi disconnects his router, but it's too late for that. This entity, much like the Sky Ghost, is tied to the game's runtime. Disconnecting the internet won't sever that connection. The existence of Eida's channel warned us about this, because the Heavy is inside of Anomi's computer. So Anomi does what any of us would in this situation. Start panicking and wildly mashing buttons hoping it does something. And it actually does.
Okay. What? Oh no, okay, I just clicked on something. I'm, what? No way. What did I do?
So, that was a lot. In his panicked state, Anomi presses a button that causes the camera flip to a topside view of the map while strange music plays. Needless to say, this is not an intended function of the source mod. It's not even an intended function of Half-Life 2, the Hammer editor, SFM, not Source itself. So what the hell is this strange map viewing functionality doing here? Its existence is an anomaly, and Anomi is only able to access it after his in-game player model is killed and placed in some sort of weird vegetative state. And during the weird camera shenanigans, you can see the Heavy exit the cathedral and grab the Combine model that the Sky Ghost spawned earlier in the episode. They bring it inside the cathedral and activate it, causing it to tweak out.
Yeah, that...
It's worth noting that the way this NPC is moving is very reminiscent of Eida's long trap video. It lurches its body forward as if it's dry heaving. Its arm jerks about uncontrollably. The Combine doesn't seem very happy. So what does it all mean? Let's take a trip through memory lane and go all the way back to episode 2. In that episode near the end, Anomi runs out of time for interloper commands during a Type 5 demo generation, which cuts off the connection and briefly gives him access to DM editor functionality, placing hint nodes and no clipping around and such. Now here, while not in the exact same circumstances, something similar has happened. Anomi has established a connection between his game client and these entities, and severed part of that connection by turning off his internet, and has now gained some sort of weird functionality between the top-down camera and the Heavy seemingly spawning a dynamic NPC before our very eyes. Anomi might have just accidentally turned Project Skybox into sort of a rudimentary DM editor type program, except he's not the one in control anymore. All he can do is watch. With how Interloper A ended, going forward, we're left with a very important question. How can the investigation continue? It seems as though every avenue has been closed off one by one, but it seems that the investigation isn't dead in the water quite yet. Let's take a trip somewhere we haven't been before in the ARG, Anomi's official Discord server. It's a place for fans of the series to come together and theorize about the ongoing case of the Interloper mystery. It's been around for a while now, but it wasn't until now that it became a vital part of the series. It's in this Discord where Anomi created a thread for people to submit demos that they'd like to see receive a cube map exam. Among the submissions, there were a lot of requests for demos from the Tuesday Manifest, some user-created demos, and quite a few shitposts. However, one interaction in this thread would change everything. Zombie Slayer, the Garry's Mod demo from the Eida Machinima channel, a demo that's almost 17 years old. There's no way that it can seriously be true. There's only one way to make sure that this is the real deal, by downloading Garry's Mod 10, downloading the map from the demo, and playing it yourself. And yeah, this is seriously the original Zombie Slayer demo, and there's only one person capable of owning and uploading this demo to the server. Shortly after, Anomi would close the thread down. Eida and Anomi have always served as dramatic foils for each other. The two almost feel like complete opposites, with Eida almost always looking at things through a supernatural lens and coming to predetermined conclusions despite conflicting evidence, and Anomi being overly pragmatic to the point where he's blind to anything that seems illogical or unnatural. Both of these approaches through the series have been shown to have their ups and downs, but it feels as though the distance between them is closing. They're both heading down the same path, and you can see that in how they treat their respective ghosts. Just like Eida, Anomi has captured sentient AI in his computer and relentlessly tortures it to provoke a reaction, and now has interloper entities stuck inside his computer. The same exact path Eida went down that caused a total mental collapse and the deletion of his channel. And now, after all of this time, the two have finally met. So, with verifiable proof that this account is the real Eida, let's take a deeper look into his Discord profile, starting with his username, JStall1994. First, we can safely assume that the J probably stands for Jan, which is Eida's first name. Working off of that assumption, Stahl could possibly be a shortened version of his last name. Stahlsberg, Stahlbau, Mark, Stahlberg. That part isn't quite as important, but something that is the date. A common trope of internet usernames is that people will place the year they were born into their usernames. If 1994 is the year Eida was born, it places a lot of the timeline into perspective. It would currently place Eida at 30 years old, which most likely means he's bald, smelly, and wrinkly. It would also mean that Eida was around 13 years old when he started YouTube, and roughly 20 years old when he had his mental breakdown and deleted his channel. His short interactions with Anomi weren't the only posts on the Discord either. Over the course of 4 minutes, Eida would make brief appearances in the server before going radio silent. 1 minute after posting the Zombie Slayer demo, Eida would enter a thread titled Strange Interloper Videos. The OP of the thread would post these 2 clips. Now, these video clips are out of universe and uploaded by someone not connected to the ARG, but Eida's Discord account would actually reply to these clips saying this.
I've actually had something like this happen before. I think I had a video left over or something. I might try and dig that up.
Eida would never post a clip showing what he experienced, but him saying he experienced something similar in the clips he's responding to gives me enough reason to make a connection. The effects shown in these clips are very similar to that of the flash nuke shown in episode 5. Ever since this bizarre aside in episode 5, we've never heard about the flash nuke since. But if Eida was experiencing a familiar phenomenon during his Interloper investigation, it could mean that the flash nuke, much like everything else up until this point, is deeply rooted in the Interloper commands and DM editor. Eida's next interaction would happen 2 minutes later in another thread titled Stupid Idea That Might Work. The thread opens with OP asking a question.
As we've established in Interloper A Sky Ghost can hear and will react to sound as long as it's in-game. So what if you recorded your voice and played it to see if the Sky Ghost will respond? It could very well be a way to communicate with them.
The idea itself doesn't sound too bad. If interloper entities can communicate via sound, then why not try literally talking to them? However, Eida, with all of his experience researching the Interloper mystery, would shoot down the idea.
I never got this to work.
Eida was very attached to the Mona. Too attached. So it makes sense he would try something like this to communicate with what he believed to be his robot Tulpa waifu. But it appears the communication doesn't work like that, and these entities aren't capable of understanding or responding to the human voice. A minute after leaving this message, he'd ask Anomi to DM him before never coming back to the server. This wouldn't be the last we'd hear of him, however, as the next day, 3 new videos would be added to the Eida Machinima archive. One of these videos is a re-upload of a 2008 Machinima Eida created called Gary Man's Episode 4, Stop the Dark Mans, which means this is the first re-upload of the Gary Man series since Gary Man eats a taco and dies, so I am personally looking forward to another installment in this epic series. The Machinima follows Mona and Eida's self-insert as they traverse an empty Gary's Mod server in search of an escape from the Darkmans. It's not exactly peak cinema, but in between the non-existent story and broken English, you can pick up on some familiar themes. The Darkmans are pitch black G-Man models hell-bent on destroying NPCs. Sound familiar? The video ends with Eida's self-insert building a rocket ship so that they can travel to other servers. In the Gary Man's universe, servers are connected by a void in a way that mirrors how source maps are connected by the source void in Interloper. These narrative themes in Eida's work suggest that they knew about the Interloper mystery for quite a while before they made videos on it. As an avid Half-Life fan, maybe Eida stumbled across the original Interloper forum page that discussed the mystery. But In the early days of Eida's channel, he simply used it for narrative inspiration rather than actually investigating it. It likely wasn't until Eida met J-Man that they started to get to the bottom of it. The next video I'll discuss was titled Half-Life 2 is not a good game. Taking a look at the date, you can see that this video was uploaded during Eida's mental breakdown arc about 3 weeks before deleting his channel. And you can tell we're in for a wild ride, because for the first time ever, the archivist has placed a disclaimer on the video, warning the viewer about loud volume and disturbing content.
I debated whether I should upload this upload from Eida or not. Generally, I want to preserve the videos as they were originally uploaded. However, some of them, such as this one, contain disturbing scenes and very unpleasant sounds that make them unpleasant to view. However, I've decided that I can't in good conscience alter his history here or try to rewrite what his channel used to be or what he showed us on his channel back in 2014. This video is only for archival purposes, and I'd actually suggest that you do not view this video under any circumstances. There's nothing of value here. This was the 4th or 5th video uploaded in his Mona series. Viewer discretion is advised.
With a warning as intense as that, it sounds like we're about to watch something right off a live leak. But what follows after the disclaimer is, and no, I'm not kidding, is Eida hitting a soda can prop in Half-Life 2 with a crowbar for over an hour straight. Maybe the archivist is trolling us or something. Or maybe he's secretly a can of Coke, so this is basically a snuff film. Maybe there's some missing context here that makes this disturbing. Does that can of soda contain the soul of Eida's dead mother? Hopefully, looking in the description of the video, we can get a shred of context as to what's happening here.
Archive note. This video, I was debating uploading this because it contains loud volumes and disturbing sound, but decided to publish this anyway with a warning I edited in. I try not to change history. The original name of this upload was Mona Intersection, but was changed to this title sometime in the weeks before it was deleted. I will maintain the last known title. Here is the original description.
I started to notice strange activity in my games. In particular, Half-Life 2, I noticed a can from the vending machine was moving on its own and turned on my recording to investigate. I made a big mistake, and the only option was to uninstall this game because this entity exists in all copies of the game. You should also uninstall this game because this can happen to you too if you encourage them, because the data is not safe.
Okay, so as we know, Eida's computer is experiencing a haunting of sorts. So honestly, a soda can moving by itself is pretty tame compared to what he's used to. So maybe he's not completely lost his mind, and the soda can he's talking about really was exhibiting strange behavior. Not to mention that there's already a tie between Eida and soda cans. Eida Can, the lost Type 5 demo featured in his ghost hunting series we've only seen a brief glimpse of. Something that's not sane, however, is whacking the damn thing with a crowbar for over an hour straight. Obviously, Eida's never learned the definition of insanity, because it's not like hitting a soda can with a crowbar for this long would actually trigger something, right? Right. You know what, I'm curious. Let's just skip all the fluff and go straight to the end to see if something happens. Okay, the disclaimer makes a little bit more sense now. I just shit my pants. As time passes, the game begins to lag more and more, and after hitting the can for an hour straight, Eida is forced into a loading screen where this strange nightmarish sequence takes place. During the sequence, the area around him flashes red, he gains the ability to no-clip, and he is attacked by an entity that drags him beneath the map. So what exactly was he taken to, and what attacked him? Well, if you remember back to episode 8 of the Ghost Hunting series, Mona escapes from the container in the DM editor in which Eida held them captive. Mona is later shown messing around with Eida's copy of Half-Life 2 episode 1. This video was uploaded roughly a year and a half after the Ghost Hunting video, which means at this point in Eida's timeline, Mona is still loose, And what happened here is Mona likely seeking out Eida to try and get revenge. After all this time, it appears they're still stuck inside the body of the female civilian model Eida forced them into. But where exactly is this place? It's obvious it's not the standard game of Half-Life 2, and we even see a loading screen appear, which clearly indicates this is not the same place he was before. So what exactly is going on here? My hypothesis? Eida has been dragged into the DM editor. The first connection I drew was how the View model, the model for your arms in the first-person perspective, spawns where Eida is teleported. This happens in a very similar fashion to every Type 5 demo up until this point. And you'll notice how Eida is able to no-clip around, just like Anomi was when he was placed into the DM editor in episode 2. So what I think happened here is that Eida was losing his mind in Half-Life 2 just long enough for Mona to do a little trolling, transporting him to the DM editor and dragging him outside of the world as revenge for the torture they endured at his hands. But, as we all know, Mona's ultimate fate is to be killed by the DM editor as Eida's final act before deleting his channel. So sometime after this video's upload, it seems as though Eida is able to recapture the Mona, and judging by the shape they're in by the time they're executed, it appears that Mona was relentlessly tortured into submission. The final video uploaded to the archive is the strangest, but at the same time, also the shortest. It's titled, "Only Footage Online I Can Find of Gris," and at just 16 seconds long, it's the shortest video uploaded to the archive. That's a lot to unpack. This video shows what appears to be a very early build of the DM editor, except the program isn't titled the DM editor yet. Instead, it just has the name gris.exe. Judging by the UI, this build looks as though it's from the 90s. The more you look at the screen, the more parallels you can draw. Many of the UI elements are very similar to the Hammer editor, used to create maps in the source engine, particularly the Edit Vertex and Create Object buttons. You may also notice that this flat checkerboard map bears a strong resemblance to the Make Face demo and Int menu map from Anomi's investigation. And speaking of the Int menu, there it is right there. Not only that, but it uses the missing texture from the source engine. Looking towards the top of the screen, you can also see that the program is editing a DME file, the file name used for demos in the source engine. It's hard to see due to the video's quality, but looking at the top of the screen, you can see a little icon that looks like a logo of none other than the Umbrella Man, perhaps related to the not at all ominous Observer button. So we have a very early build of the DM editor under a develop name using Valve assets, playing a demo file of a strange cone object gyrating near some palm trees. What the hell is this? On the Project Skybox website, you may remember Thewhat, a company from Norway intent on creating digital worlds. In 1991, this company sent a series of tapes showing off their software to a convention in California called Digivisions. The contents of this tape were reportedly so disturbing to onlookers, they shut off the tapes early. 5 years later, a company called Valve would be founded in Washington, and they too would share a goal of creating massive immersive digital worlds. With this context in mind, I'm ready to share what I think the video is showing. This video is showing software that Thewhat, also known as FSky, is working on in conjunction with Valve before the release of the source engine in 2004. Right off the bat, we have two things that immediately tie this software to FSky. First is the use of the word gris. While gibberish in English, the word directly translates to pig in Norwegian, where FSky is located. The second chain tying this software to FSky is that in the description of the clip, Eida mentions finding this video on the website. Presumably, the same website from which Eida found the other videos of FSky software. The overabundance of Valve assets in this clip, as well as the UI, suggests Valve was involved in the creation of this software because these assets wouldn't be available to the public until long after this clip would have taken place. The ending of this video is extremely important as well. For a few seconds, the camera flips to a topside view of the area in the exact same way the Project Skybox mod did during the heavy ambush. Decades after its development, Interloper entities are still able to trigger effects from Gris in other source games. This video, despite its short length, provides vital context for the DM editor and the people behind it, and hopefully we can apply that knowledge going forward, because this isn't the end. We still have one more video left to cover, because 1 month after this video was archived, Interloper B was uploaded to Anomi's channel. Interloper B starts off by picking up the pieces from the last installment, and Anomi starts by addressing the demo submission forum I covered previously. Anomi cites 2 reasons for shutting down the forum, and the first reason is quite surprising. Turns out, someone tried to sabotage Anomi and infect his computer with a virus. Now, maybe this was a viewer trying to do a little trolling by screwing over Anomi's PC. Sometimes people are weenies on the internet. But a much more interesting scenario is if there was a motive behind the sabotage, a cover-up. Previously in the series, during Anomi's live investigation in part 4, Anomi strongly alludes to someone straddling his internet connection, forcing the stream to end early. So what if a person went incognito into Anomi's Discord server and planted a virus into a demo file to brick his computer, closing the Project Skybox source mod and severing his connection to the Sky Ghost? Knowing how suspicious F-Sky is, I don't believe this theory is even that much of a stretch. The second reason for Anomi's closure of the demo thread is the one we already know, JStall 1994. After Eida posted the Zombie Slayer demo into the forum, the two began to privately message one another, and now we get to see how that played out.
Where did you get the demo file from? Did you make the Zombie Slayer demo?
I made the demo back then. You can verify yourself by playing it.
I did look at it, but I don't get it.
Now, you are gonna need this.
What is this exactly?
My feeling is this is what you've gotten in your game now. I think you should try using it.
So, if Gris is an early build of the DM editor and Eida believes what's happening in this clip is what's happening with the Sky Ghost, does that imply that the gyrating cone is actually a primitive type of dynamic NPC? This cone with no body or limbs or features to speak of could contain the early workings of digital sentience, and the only thing it's capable of is wiggling around like a worm.
So were you the actual Eida Machinima? Have you experienced this before in your investigations?
I only have one recording of an encounter here.
Why is this an hour long?
You shouldn't try to do this.
What exactly are you trying to tell me here? Can you prove that you're the real Eida Machinima?
Here, that's everything I have left. See what you can do.
What am I supposed to do exactly? Any ideas? Can you do a voice call?
And with that concludes all of the messages shared between Anomi and Eida. He really just dropped in, gave a couple cryptic hints, and dipped like an ARG Riddler. So let's try and decipher what exactly Eida was trying to get at and what Anomi was failing to pick up. Eida places a lot of importance on the Gris video, saying Anomi needs it, and comparing it to the Sky Ghost. Eida also specifically warns Anomi using the can video, so Anomi should just lay off soda and he'll be fine. I mean, I get it, soda's really unhealthy, but that can't be what he's trying to say. No, it goes deeper than that. What if he's saying Anomi doesn't need Gris as in the video, but Gris as in the program, the DM editor? During Eida's investigation, he mainly used the DM editor and was able to achieve a lot of results with it. However, when Eida tries to explore anomalies in-game, such as the can video, things go horribly wrong. I believe Eida is trying to warn Anomi from trying to investigate the interloper phenomenon in-game, as it's going to lead to his games being infected and irreversible damage, and is instead trying to push Anomi towards the DM editor as a tool to research. Earlier, we've discussed how Eida and Anomi are heading down the same path, and the entities inside Anomi's computer and Project Skybox going belly up are clear indicators that things are going to get much worse. Ida's come back to the internet after years of inactivity to try and warn Anomi of what could happen and push him towards more productive means. But our goat Anomi, as pragmatic as ever, picks up on none of this and pushes forward anyway. The good news is that the Project Skybox source mod isn't a completely dead lead. Even though Anomi got murdered in cold blood by Heavy and completely lost control of the source mod, the Sky Ghost still goes through its passive cycle, which means cube map exams are still on the table. Anomi simply has to wait for the sound effect stage of the cycle to play, and directly after is the slink stage that allows for cube map exams. So now we have a new batch of cube map exams to look over and analyze. And the first demo Anomi decides to put under the microscope is Data 21 from Day of Defeat, the demo that seemed to show the POV of whatever was stalking Ida during his ghost hunting series. Much like other cube map exams, it follows a strange figure in the game world followed by cryptic imagery. The more and more we see of these, the more and more they start to feel like weird alien shitposts with random images and strange noises. Another demo to get the cube map treatment is none other than Sea Strike all the way back from episode 1. The cube map exam for this demo is unique in the fact that it's, well, very unimpressive. For the first time ever, this cube map exam isn't focused on a bizarre figure, and instead just mimics the POV of the dynamic NPC from the demo. So why is it that this is the only cube map exam that doesn't seem to follow a strange entity? Well, if you subscribe to my theory that the Sky Ghost is hijacking a signal of sorts to briefly traverse other game worlds through these exams, then perhaps there is something about this demo that interferes with that signal. There's one key difference between Sea Strike and the other demos Anomi has tested, and it's the fact that this demo contains direct instances of the Umbrella Man and the Umbrella Man model. So maybe there's a conflict there of sorts that could prevent the Sky Ghost's passage. The next few exams are fairly standard as well, showing that cube map exams are compatible with demos that weren't even generated by interloper commands. Any demo can work regardless of the origin. However, it's worth noting that in one Half-Life demo, the bizarre figure takes the form of a cone. Looks like Ida might actually be onto something. And it looks like he was right about more than that, because before uploading this video to his channel, something happened to Anomi in TF2 that could be a very dark omen for what's to come. In Anomi's own words, it got inside his computer. While playing a standard match of casual TF2, Anomi encounters a player name on the ground, the type you see when you pass by a teammate, except this name is grayed out as if it's a spectator or neutral party. And after Anomi once again subtly flexes his Saxy award, this happens. Looks like Anomi has opened a passageway into his computer through Project Skybox, through which entities can come into his computer. This engineer at first perfectly mimics Anomi's movements in Team of 2, but the second he leaves the server and severs the connection, it begins acting on its own before skedaddling off. This isn't the first time we've seen this happen either. We saw a very similar encounter play out with Ida in his Crasher video. What can I say, he tried to warn you, dude. Looks like not even Ida himself can stop the downward spiral that seems inevitable. With that, the episode ends. But we're not done here. You see, the past two Interloper videos have been hiding a secret. Throughout Interloper B, you may notice that several letters in the on-screen text are stylized red. What might seem like an editing quirk at first becomes more intriguing when you combine all of the red letters throughout the video. Spies 4x6. It's a strange phrase for sure, but that's not all. Let's go back to Interloper A. During most endings for Interloper videos, there's a short little glitch effect, but there's more to this one. For one frame, you can see this photo. It seems to be a recreation of the Ellis Floor Type 5 demo, but to the left of Ellis, you can see a strange message. Spies, followed by an assortment of seemingly random characters. Rewinding the video a little bit earlier towards the 23-minute mark, you can catch yet another hidden message that lasts a single frame. In total, we have 3 of these secret messages. I've been calling them spies codes. There is no concrete answer as to what these are yet, but we can theorize. I'm willing to bet these are going to be very important going forward, and their true meaning will be revealed as we go forward in the series. Whatever these are though, it's clear Anomi wants it to stay hidden. Every instance of a spy's code we've seen so far has been cleverly snuck into the video via editing, something Anomi has control over. The Project Skybox Collective obviously has a lot of creative oversight over Anomi's channel, and he has deep ties to the collective we still don't fully grasp, but by sneaking these spies codes into the video under Project Skybox's noses, his intention is clear. He wants the audience to know, but he doesn't want Project Skybox to know. So just what could be so important about these codes that Anomi needs to leak it to the public covertly? Let's try and break it down. Starting with spies. In the Norwegian language, spies translates to eat. So like many things in this series, its origin can be traced back to F-Sky. Here's my working theory. Spies codes are actually coordinates or a way to navigate the source void. There's a video on the Eida archive channel that to this day remains an enigma. Long ago in 2014, Eida sent this video to J-Man along with a brief message.
I'm leaving you the last coordinate. Please check in a year or two and make sure it's gone. This is it. Goodbye.
This coordinate code has stumped me for over a year at this point, but we might finally have a lead. What if this coordinate is a spy's code, and they can be used to find specific coordinates in the source void? Perhaps sneaking these codes into videos is Anomi's way of telling us to explore specific areas we don't know how to reach yet, as we don't have the means to decipher the codes yet. And as of right now, that's where the Interloper series stands. Originally, this is where the video was supposed to end. However, as I was finishing up the video and preparing for its release, something big happened. Interloper C dropped, and this episode is one of the longest, most cinematic, revelation-filled episodes of the series to date. Words cannot do it justice. If I had to pick any episode of the series to watch for yourself completely uninterrupted, this would be the one. So I am begging you to treat yourself and watch it for yourself. You will thank me later. Here, I'll even put a 5-second timer on the screen. I'm serious. So now that we're all on the same page, let's break down what we just saw. The episode starts off with something we haven't seen before from Anomi. A warning. Do not replicate anything in the video. Throughout the entire series, Anomi has never tried to dissuade his audience from researching the Interloper mystery. In fact, he's outright encouraged audience participation. However, it appears that something has changed Anomi's mindset. And there happens to be another person who's looked into the Interloper mystery who placed very similar messages into his videos. Eida. It appears my guess about Eida's and Anomi's paths converging holds some weight, and I bet these two are more connected than they could ever truly realize. The video goes on to make a grim announcement. Project Skybox has crashed. Earlier, it was established that closing the Project Skybox runtime severs the connection between the game and the entities inside of it. And it appears the worst has happened, and the Sky Ghost has been lost, closing out the last lead in the Interloper investigation. But before that crash happened, a lot of crazy shit went down, and long story short, Eida ruined everything. The series of events leading up to the crash starts the same way as any other crazy event does in the Interloper series. Goofing around on Ravenholm until something wacky happens. And a wacky thing does in fact happen. Inside the game, props begin floating into the skybox and out of the game in what seems to be a mass migration. We've seen props move like this before in the SFM generation from the Tuesday Manifest, where props appeared from all around the map and convened into a single spot, forming one of Anomi's void-traversing drones. Working off of this, we can safely assume that these props are being gathered from across the source universe to assemble in a single spot. Who is assembling these props and for what purpose is yet to be known. Naturally, Anomi goes to ask Eida about the prop anomaly, to which he responds if Anomi watched his demo, then proceeds to recommend pressing the F11 key. At first, I was unsure of which demo Eida could be referring to. He's no stranger to weird things happening in demos, between the 2-hour-long Lawn Trap Type 5 demo or the time he got sent to hell for drinking soda. That was until I remembered Eida specifically chose the Zombie Slayer demo to give to Anomi. Before, I assumed the reason for sending this demo was just to verify himself as the real Eida. But it seems like he had more intent that was lost on us. In the demo, Eida is playing Gary's mod and using the camera tool for cinematic effect. In Gmod, the camera's POV is toggled using a button on your keyboard. And if you remember back to Interloper A, while pressing random keys on his keyboard, Anomi accidentally presses a key that toggles the point of view. So perhaps the F11 key is what is used to toggle between POVs in the DM editor, allowing Anomi to see past the walls of the Citadel in the Project Skybox source mod. That's not all either. In Source Filmmaker, the F11 key is a button that allows you to enter the map as a TF2 character. As we all know, the DM editor and Source Filmmaker are intrinsically linked, so it appears that functionality has carried over as well. All that's left is for Anomi to try it out for himself.
Will anything happen? Huh?
Needless to say, it didn't go great. Pressing F11 in the client does indeed switch the point of view for the camera, although I'm not quite sure what the POV is. Before we can fully grasp what's happening in the game, it is covered by a missing texture overlay and an error shows up on screen.
What did it...
Oh, fiddlesticks. What now?
Wait, what?
Followed by the "oh fiddlesticks" sound that usually signals interloper shenanigans. The error message tells Anomi he isn't using an adapter compatible with Direct3D 6.1. Direct3D is a graphics API that's used by the source engine. However, a particularly fascinating note is that the message specifically cites version 6.1. This version of Direct3D was used in the Gold Source engine, what Half-Life 1 released with. This error could possibly be hinting at the possibility of the DM editor being worked on far prior to the release of the source engine. However, despite it seeming pretty over, this isn't actually when the game crashed. Despite the missing texture overlay covering the screen, the client is still active. Anomi is still connected to the Sky Ghost. However, this problem extends past Project Skybox as well. Every source game now has the same problem as the Project Skybox source mod, with the game being visually stuck on a single frame, rendering every single game made on the source engine unplayable. Something about Eida's suggestion to press F11 bricked the source engine as a whole. Anomi mentions the possibility of Eida purposefully sabotaging him, but what I think is more likely is that so much time has passed between the two investigations that the functionality of the F11 key stopped working and is so bugged it bricks the entire engine. Eida really does seem sincere in trying to help Anomi, but why now of all times is the strange part. So Anomi can never play a source game again, can't research the Interloper mystery, and nothing ever happened again. Goodbye everyone, thanks for watching.
I'm at a payphone trying to...
Okay, not really, as Anomi has found one last way to interact with the source engine. And since you've been keeping up with the series as long as I have, I'll bet you'll be pleased to find Anomi exploring a thread we haven't seen in a long time. The original Xbox version of Half-Life 2. Anomi is able to get it working on an emulator, and it is completely unaffected by the F11 glitch. After so much time, this means we might finally get some answers as to what the flash nuke is. A phenomenon exclusive to the Xbox version of the game, Anomi briefly explored all the way back in episode 5. One major disadvantage of trying to investigate on the console version of Half-Life 2 is that you lose access to the developer console, the tool that has made everything up until this point possible. So if Anomi is going to achieve anything on this edition of the game, he's going to need to be extra creative, because he can't rely on the developer console anymore. Fortunately, he's able to do just that. Anomi is able to perform an exploit that allows him to clip through the floor and fall through the source void. As we saw in episode 5, Anomi was able to do something similar in TF2 with the help of console commands. And with any luck, he could fall into a new map in the source void and begin picking up the pieces of the investigation. And get lucky he does. Anomi safely lands on a new map in the void, breaking every bone in his body and killing him instantly. To the approximately 4 viewers of mine that play Dota 2, this may seem a tad familiar, as the map he landed in is none other than the map from Dota 2, something Anomi is able to pick up on. Dota fans rejoice, because this is the only time you've ever been relevant to the ARG. Just like the Project Skybox source mod, Dota 2 is nearly unplayable due to the texture covering the screen, but behind that overlay, the game is still running like normal. Working off of this assumption, Anomi is able to maneuver his character in Dota to the very spot Anomi fell in inside the Xbox emulation. Even through the layers of emulation, the games are connected and in perfect sync through the source universe. Anomi can control multiple characters in the same game space using separate clients, very similarly to how Portal RTX functioned in episode 5. And if Dota and emulated Half-Life 2 are connected, that's gotta mean other games are connected as well.
I'm gonna try and open the console, and I'm gonna type in get pose. So the get pose command gets to your current position, but it also puts on your clipboard a set pose command that lets you teleport to that location. So let me see if it worked.
Looks like things are finally starting to come together. Since this description dropped, I've been grasping at straws trying to theorize what it could mean, and we finally have an answer. These are coordinates for the source void. Within the great expanse of the source void, there is something so important to Eida, he tasked J-Man with finding it in the void and destroying it for good. Back to Anomi's investigation, armed with the knowledge that games are connected through the Xbox emulation, Anomi is able to use the git pause command to send Gordon Freeman to the Shadow Realm. So if you can teleport characters from different games into a separate client, then there could be a possibility that game logic carries over as well. The current problem inhibiting Anomi's ability to explore the void is the fact he's currently dead. But what if he wasn't?
All right, now. No, other way. I don't think it's gonna work.
Using this Looney Tunes logic idea, Anomi is actually able to successfully revive his character back from death. Not only that, but by using the engineer from Team Fortress 2, he can teleport himself out of the Dota 2 map to entirely new areas of the source void. It seems like we're finally starting to grasp the vision of the immersive massive universe Valve envisioned for the Source engine. Something the public was never allowed to see, and something that was canceled before launch and covered up with only a secret message implanted in the game that could lead to its discovery. Which leads us all back to the question of why. Why was all of this work poured into this massive expansive universe, the very goal of the Source engine, just to be poured down the drain? Maybe in time, we'll find our answer. Using an engineer's teleporter, Anomi is able to leave the Dota 2 map and explore upward from TF2. And in this map, Anomi finds some peculiar things.
Just upward. Huh? What's that? Okay.
Looks like Medic has been turned into a tickle monster. Another strange find is inside of one of the spawn rooms on the map. Inside the room, you can hear the team select music play, and within the room, you can see the view models of every class suspended in the air. The way these view models hang in the air is very reminiscent of how Type 5 demos start. So perhaps the implication of this room is that this is where multiple dynamic NPCs spawned before wandering off, leaving the view models behind. And if that's the case, what the hell happened to Medic after leaving the room? Exploring further into the map, Anomi comes across a giant boulder floating into the void just like props were in Half-Life 2. Props are being pulled across the entire Source universe for some sort of grand purpose, the likes of which we still can't comprehend. Pushing forward, Anomi teleports himself to a map in Portal 2. However, it's so dark, it's hard to make out where exactly he is. After exploring for a little while, you can hear the teleporter exit sound. Something has just entered the map. Anomi isn't alone here. And shortly after, we find what may be the culprit. Barney from Half-Life, stuck in a wall just like the tickle monster Medic. Moving on, the next map Anomi visits is the most interesting one yet. Free Space 09, a custom map for Gary's mod that's notable for being the map where the Zombie Slayer demo takes place. Unlike the other maps, this one is actually filled to the brim with these strange entities. These civilian models that wander aimlessly like they're in some sort of limbo. Despite their behavior being so simple, there's a lot about these wandering NPCs that I find interesting. One behavioral quirk they have is the ability to change colors, rapidly cycling through various different colors. Let's rewind back to Helmet Creek. You can see the light behaving just like the NPCs do, rapidly switching colors. Rewind even further back to the Flash Nuke, and in this clip, you can see the sun exhibiting the same behavior. This flickering effect is notable for being a very common Source Filmmaker error with lighting. Source Filmmaker and the DM editor having the same exact quirk? It's almost like these two things are connected. Okay, you get it by now, but there is so much overlap between these two programs, their connection is practically undeniable. Going back to the civilian NPCs, we can see that they're also behaving in a very similar fashion to the NPCs in Spooky Coast way back in episode 1. In the past, I've labeled these strange entities as corrupted dynamic NPCs, and it looks like that analysis still holds up. They possess some of the qualities of dynamic NPCs, such as limited intelligence and the ability to move in ways unlike standard NPCs, but they seem to lack the motivation and fluidity, which leaves them aimlessly wandering and easily manipulated by Umbrella Men. These corrupt NPCs were always a bit of an anomaly, but now we've finally gotten the closest look we've ever had inside of their natural habitat.
Like, I can't see it very well, but it kind of looks like they're dispersing now. Are they? What's that one? Wait, what? What? The fuck? What is that? Oh. What?
Through this moment, we get to see that the source void has its own food chain of sorts, with the corrupted NPCs forming the bottom layer, mindlessly wandering around, being just intelligent enough to sense danger in the presence of an Umbrella Man. The top of the food chain is none other than the Umbrella Man, the apex predator. Not like that, not like that! And right in the middle of the food chain, we have the player, because the Umbrella Man actively seeks out the player-controlled pawn in Portal 2 and completely distorts them beyond belief, rendering Portal 2 unplayable and crashing the client, just like what happened in Interloper 2. Anomi is barely able to place one last teleporter using TF2 before the engineer is caught and the game gets closed down. And where else does Anomi go but Project Skybox to check up on our good friend, the Sky Ghost? And it seems things have been quite busy while Anomi's been away, because it seems he's found the place where all the props have been slowly congregating. That's not all that's changed either. In the central square of the map, there's now a giant pillar of shaking shipping containers. In episode 5, while searching for maps in the source void using Gary's Mod 10, Anomi was playing around on GM Construct, and there's a bunch of props lying around. One of the things Anomi created on the map was a giant pillar of shipping containers. Let's consider things for a second. Anomi uses Gary's Mod 10 to search the source void. Something in the void causes many of his attempts to crash. Later, he builds drones for the same task. During an SFM demo from the Tuesday Manifest, props are assembled to form one of these drones in the exact same way props are currently forming now. Putting the pieces together, is it possible that the Sky Ghost has been following us for much longer than we thought? Were they what was causing crashes during the expeditions, and was it them who created Anomi's drone in SFM? Has the Sky Ghost been here the whole time? Speaking of the Sky Ghost, they seem to be stuck in the floor in the exact same spot in the cathedral where Anomi died in Interloper A. All of Anomi's source games are starting to rapidly crash as the Umbrella Man finds the player in each client and distorts them. Now, an Umbrella Man is on the horizon, and he's headed towards the Sky Ghost. If the Sky Ghost is currently in the same position the player is in, and the Umbrella Man targets the player in each source game client, then that must mean that the Sky Ghost has taken the role of the player in the Project Skybox source mod. That could have been what happened when Anomi pressed F11. The player and the Sky Ghost switched positions and caused errors that rippled across the entire source engine, bricking every single one of Anomi's games. But right now, that is the least of Anomi's concerns, because there's an Umbrella Man headed towards the Sky Ghost, and if they get caught, Project Skybox crashes, and the Sky Ghost gets murdered. He's gotta save the Sky Ghost and get the hell out of here.
Can I pick up the pawn like a prop? Huh? What the? Oh shit. Really fast. Oh, I'm back here. Shit.
Thankfully, Anomi is able to temporarily escape using the falling speed from jumping off the map, something that the Umbrella Man can't keep up with. And speaking of the Umbrella Man, goddamn, has he seen some better days. What the hell happened to you, dude? Just minutes earlier, we encountered an Umbrella Man who looked a lot more like what we're used to. So something about this Umbrella Man is different. And what happens next may offer some form of explanation. While falling through the map to outrun the strange Umbrella Man, Anomi stumbles across something truly bizarre. A massive figure that distorts so rapidly, their true form is hard to make out. However, pause at the right moment, and you can catch a glimpse of what they look like. A feminine figure in what looks to be a lab coat and wearing something that resembles a sun hat. Not only is this figure massive, but they also seem strangely benevolent. Unlike most entities in this series that jump you on sight and send you to the ethereal plane, this missing texture woman seemingly offers a helping hand, extending their arm to point Anomi in the right direction. Something even stranger than the missing texture woman is the area that they're stuck in. They're in what appears to be a laboratory environment. Adorning the glass in the entranceway are DNA symbols, hinting towards this laboratory working on organic material. And the subject of these lab experiments seems to be none other than the giant woman herself. Outside of the lab, the sign above the main entrance gives us a massive clue as to what this scene represents. Although it's hard to see in the dark, you can make out two words: Bellevue and Air. And Bellevue just so happens to be the city where Valve HQ is located. This likely isn't the first time we've seen this woman either. It's just that in her past experience, she was a lot more recognizable. As a human. It is my belief that this scene is depicting how Valve and Fortu were able to develop digital sentience. They were able to extract the consciousness of a woman named Olive and inserted it into their game engine as a feature to give sentience to NPC characters to enhance the immersiveness of the expansive digital world that they plan to create. This woman, Olive, is the origin of AI sentience in the Source engine. For more confirmation, we can look towards the Umbrella Man model from the Tuesday Manifest. The name of the model mesh confirms two things: that Umbrella Men are a type of dynamic NPC, and that they are closely tied to Olive. In fact, they share some visual similarities as well. At first glance, the sun hat the woman is wearing can look a lot like an umbrella. By examining the texture of the Umbrella Man model, we uncover what could possibly be a hidden layer of tragedy too. Olive might not even be alive. What we're looking at here might just be her digital ghost, all that's left of her sentience, stuck in an eternal limbo. It makes sense why Valve and F-Sky would work so hard to cover this up. But what is it that Olive is guiding Anomi towards? On the way over in the darkness, there's what appears to be a bus sign with a familiar phrase: spies. It's impossible to make out, but the text under the bus seems to be another spy's code. It seems like my theory about spies' codes being a way to navigate the void might have had some merit after all. These codes could be used to mark various areas of the void that are of high importance, and it looks like Olive's digital ghost is something worth making a landmark. However, that doesn't solve the question of what Olive was specifically pointing at: this strange building in the distance. Inside the building, it looks like a hub of sorts, with various gates leading into doorways that lead to God knows where. If you strain your eyes and look real close, you can even make out entities moving inside the building. Although they're so hard to make out, I can't tell what they are or where they're going. It's also worth noting the strong resemblance this strange map shares with the map seen at the end of Longtrap in the distance, the Type 5 demo from Eida's ghost hunting series. Just like how Anomi was directed towards the map by Olive, Eida could have been directed towards the map as well for some sort of purpose. If this strange map truly is a hub of sorts, then there's something in here very pertinent to the Interloper mystery. However, it's too high up and far away, and Anomi can't quite reach. So unfortunately, the only way forward is down. After falling for quite some time, Anomi lands himself in an old Christmas roleplay map. And on this map are a bunch of corrupted NPCs that move and lurch their way forward, just like the Combine from episode B. And it's here where Anomi figures out the purpose of the crowbar they picked up while saving the Sky Ghost.
You know, I wonder what would happen. What if I... Oh. Okay. So it works if you're hovering over something. And it looks like it's a dance weapon?
He's able to force the dynamic NPC to dance by using the crowbar tool on him. It looks like the Sky Ghost itself imbued Anomi with this power when picking up their essence. Earlier, we saw the Sky Ghost experiment with Anomi by tempting them to dance with music, and we've seen Umbrella Men bait dynamic NPCs into dancing before. Not to mention, all of the dancing in the F-Sky trailer and the dots are starting to connect. It appears as though dancing was a basic feature of the DM editor, a way to showcase the fluid motion the dynamic NPCs were capable of, as well as being a goofy feature of the program. Although a lot of the sense of joy and whimsy is lost when you're using it to torture sentient AI in a dark hellscape. Also notice how the crowbar tool looks like the shotgun Eida was holding in the DM editor. It seems like Half-Life 2's weapons acted as different types of tools in the program, similar to how the tool gun functions in Gary's mod. So if the crowbar tool makes people dance, we can only speculate as to what the shotgun's purpose was. Maybe filling the Umbrella Man with buckshot, who knows? Many hours have passed since the F11 test at this point, and Anomi is running out of options. Lucy recommends using cheat codes, and there's only one cheat code Anomi can think of that could be useful in the source void. After waiting for over a year, flash nuking is finally relevant again. I have prayed for times like this.
Oh my god. It works.
Using the flash nuke cheat code on a dynamic NPC neutralizes them in the same exact way we've seen the Umbrella Man doing in the source void. Does this mean that flash nuking is actually utilizing the abilities of the Umbrella Man? And if that's true, do Umbrella Men possess the world-distorting ability we've seen the flash nuke be capable of in the past? This could possibly explain Eida's response to the videos in Anomi's Discord showing flash nuke-like symptoms on the game world, even though presumably Eida only ever played on the PC version of the game, because entities connected to the Interloper mystery can have this effect on the game world, something like the Mona. So now that Anomi is armed with a tool that has a shot of competing against the Umbrella Man, all that's left to do is wait for him to come and flash nuke his ass out of here. Except that's not quite what happens.
Is it here? Wait.
In this clip, we can see a T-posing figure in the distance approach the Kleiner model Anomi spaghettified, and put it out of its misery by deleting it with an error model. Exactly like how it was done during Eida's goodbye video. What's odd is that the error sign looks like it's being manually controlled. In the past, I assumed that this delete feature was an Umbrella Man due to the movement and how the Umbrella Man's role is seemingly to hunt and delete dynamic NPCs. But I'm beginning to feel like that assertion was wrong the whole time. Let's take a closer look at Eida's goodbye video. When Eida clicks on delete, the mouse cursor button disappears as the controls seemingly shift to moving the error sign towards the dynamic NPC to delete it. And if all of these assertions are true, it means that my theory about Umbrella Men originating from the delete button in the DM editor is false, and we're no closer to figuring out the origin of the Umbrella Man. The more we learn about them, the more mysterious they become. However, this isn't even the strangest thing that this player entity does. Watch what happens next.
Is that somebody else? Somebody else get access to this?
Well, that guy seemed about as outgoing and friendly as your average Reddit mod. What the hell happened there? Let's get to the bottom of who this guy is. I'll be nicknaming him Spave for obvious reasons, although that's most likely not what they're actually named. The first thing you may notice about Spave is his odd appearance. And he should look odd because he shouldn't even exist. The model the character is using is from Team Fortress Invasion, a scrapped early iteration of what would eventually become TF2. And the model they're holding isn't actually a standard gravity gun, but rather the scrapped fizz gun from the Half-Life 2 beta. Spave is utilizing scrapped assets from very early source projects that normal players shouldn't have access to. And the only thing stranger than their appearance is their behavior. Spave switched up on Anomi faster than you guys will after discovering all that insider trading I've been doing. So why is this player's behavior so erratic? Because they might not even be human at all. Despite coming off as human, the player character is most likely an advanced AI entity that can think and act for itself. Let's go back to Interloper A when the Heavy ambushed Anomi and took the fizz gun. They appear just like our good friend Spave, a T-posing model that can move and act on its own, as well as having the ability to influence dynamic NPCs. Spave also has a very similar speech pattern to Interloper entities, putting a heavy emphasis on greetings, just like the various times we've seen Interloper entities give warm welcomes in the past, almost as if it's hard-coded into them to say hello. This would explain the sudden switch up after Spave recognizes Anomi as a human player. Because as a dynamic NPC, Spave knows of the inherent danger that comes with being in the presence of a human player. I mean, look at what Anomi just did to the Dr. Kleiner model. That's more than enough to justify Spave's human phobia. After running for hours evading the Umbrella Man, Anomi falls into what looks like rock bottom, the foundational layer of the source void. And it's nothing but a massive expanse of checkerboard floors that we've seen all over the series, from Int Menu to Portal RTX to Eida's goodbye video. This checkerboard floor has been a constant throughout the series.
Okay, I've been walking straight forward for like 20 minutes. Like, you know, this might be the lower limit I was talking about earlier. Wait. What? Sky Ghost?
The Sky Ghost has been with Anomi ever since he picked her up, but now she's made her presence a bit more known. And she's pointing in a direction much like Olive did earlier, guiding Anomi towards something in the distance. Over 24 hours after pressing F11, and after an hour and a half of walking down the checkered void following the Sky Ghost's directions, this happens. The torso of a woman's body stands motionless in the checkered void, emitting strange music with 3 small orbs orbiting itself. The most odd feature of this strange figure is that instead of the head, there's a large cone in its place. Oh, wow. There are so many striking similarities between this strange entity and so many other aspects of the Interloper series. The torso resembles the Mona from Eida's goodbye video, the cone is similar to the entity we saw in Gris, the cone head and small orbs orbiting the figure resemble the Project Skybox logo, whose true goal we still don't know. There's so many revolving pieces right now and so much to speculate on, but in order to piece any of it together, we need to see what happens next.
Huh? Wait. What? The emulator. Wait, hold on. Oh, no. No. Invalid CD key. Please enter a valid... What do you mean? Seriously? That's it?
I wasn't kidding when I said that Interloper C is one of the most substantial episodes in the entire series. There's so many new discoveries and potential revelations, it's hard to keep track of them all. And the ending to this video is one of the most mind-blowing moments to date. It really feels like we're inching closer to the end of the series, as so many intersecting pieces of the puzzle are starting to connect. But we're still left with some very important questions. So how do I figure out what's happening? In order to do that, we need to go to the source, because everything comes back to the Sky Ghost. This episode gives us reason to believe that the Sky Ghost has been following Anomi for much longer than we first thought. Earlier, I raised the idea that the Sky Ghost was the entity causing Anomi's game to crash in the void during their expeditions in GM Construct. I said this because there's a connection between the drones and the Sky Ghost. Something causes Anomi to crash while exploring the void, so he creates drones for the same task. One of these drones is assembled in SFM during an interloper generation, and the Sky Ghost begins assembling props in the same exact way. But right at the end of the new episode, we have a new piece of evidence that might just confirm this theory. The smoking gun. Just seconds before the Xbox emulation crashes for good, if you look to the left, you can see some text from the client running VRAD. Sound familiar? The connections only get more crazy as we go, so stick with me here. The Sky Ghost specifically directs Anomi towards what looks like the final stage of the Mona from Eida's goodbye video. In that video, we are led to believe that this is the moment that the Mona finally met her end. But what if she never died? One day after uploading the goodbye video to YouTube and deleting his channel, Eida would contact his former video partner J-Man with this video. It's inside my computer. The video shows Eida playing a demo in the DM editor before it goes haywire, and an entity lunges towards the camera at Eida. A malicious entity trapped within the DM editor trying to get to Eida. This could be Mona. Getting rid of her wasn't as easy as hitting delete. She's embedded into his very computer. So he leaves J-Man a coordinate asking to check in a year or two to make sure it's gone for good. And what could this coordinate possibly lead to? The very spot where Mona was killed in the goodbye video. The very same place the Sky Ghost directs Anomi to at the end of Interloper C. That's not the only connection either. Look at what happens to the crowbar when the doorway is open at the end of Interloper C. And look at what happens to the crowbar when Mona catches Eida in Half-Life 2. What if after Eida left the internet, Mona was left to wander the empty source void all alone? That is, until they spot a player researching the void just like Eida did 10 years prior. Why else would Eida come back to the internet after a decade has passed to try and help Eida with the mystery? Why now? Eida only comes to help Anomi after the Sky Ghost infects the Project Skybox source mod. Perhaps Eida recognized the very same entity that haunted him for years and drove him away from the internet, and is trying to prevent the very same thing from happening to Anomi. Mona and the Sky Ghost may not just be similar, they could be the same. So where does Project Skybox fit into this? Why does Project Skybox's logo look like the cone from Gris and the Mona's body from Interloper C? For the whole series, the Project Skybox collective has been very secretive, opting to work in the background and never reveal their full intentions. But there's the possibility that this whole time, they've been working with Anomi to try and open the doorway we see in Interloper C. As for what's behind the door, we can't really know for sure. We see a very similar doorway during Interloper 4 that was accessed through Portal RTX. When that doorway was crossed, it caused the Portal RTX application become white, and trying to access the Portal RTX server would instead load you into the int menu map. However, this doorway seems much different, because after entering the doorway, it bricks every source application across the board. For Project Skybox, maybe what's behind that doorway is a full look at the source universe Valve and Fortu dreamed of, the massive immersive world that was left to die by the people who created it. A digital Atlantis. However, for Mona, the Sky Ghost, this doorway could represent something they've wanted for over 10 years, possibly much longer. Maybe what lies behind this doorway is freedom.